Radha Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Pratijana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Pratijana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Pratijana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, yesterday when I gave class, I mentioned something from Nectar of Devotion, and I said I would explain that today. So we'll just do that quick, and then go into Srila Prabhupada Nectar. What I was referring to is in chapter 18, I believe. 18. Character of one in ecstatic love. And he's Baba. We did a whole class on this, but Fridays is Srila Prabhupada Nectar Day. So, but here there are 9. Let me just read the first part. which if you read on in this chapter, it explains each one of these points. Rupa Goswami, the character of one in ecstatic love. Rupa Goswami next describes the characteristics of a person who has actually developed his ecstatic love for Krishna. The characteristics are as follows. 1, he is always anxious to utilize his time in devotional service of the Lord. He does not like to be idle. He wants service always, 24 hours a day, without deviation. 2, he is always reserved and perseverant. 3, he is always detached from all material attraction. 4, he does not long for any material respect in return for his activities. It's called humility. 5, he is always certain that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon him. 6, he is always very eager to serve the Lord faithfully. 7, he is very much attached to the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. 8, he is always eager to describe the transcendental qualities of the Lord. And 9, he is very pleased to live in a place where the Lord's pastimes are performed. For example, Mathura, Vrindavan, or Dwarka. But anyway, those are the points. I'd like to go reading on, but this is actually Srila Prabhupada Nectar book day, so I have to stay in line. But and Srila Prabhupada mentions somewhere in this chapter that these points of ecstatic love, these characteristics of one who is in ecstatic love. That means Baba here. One who is on that level, they will naturally exhibit all these qualities, and these qualities cannot be exhibited artificially. Like if someone wants to say, "Look, everyone, I'm on the level of Baba ecstasy, and just see how I have all these characteristics." But first of all, if he does that, he's not humble. He's already one of them. So someone who's on that level, in ecstatic love, naturally shows all this, and one who's not cannot artificially show, especially cannot show all of them. There might be a little attempt to show something here and there, but they will not be able to really show all of them, because they will not manifest unless you're actually one's at least on that level of ecstatic love. Anyway, I mentioned this during the class yesterday, but I couldn't remember the points, so I said I'll bring it up today. But we need to go on to Srila Prabhupada Nectar, and maybe another day we can read the actual description of those points. They're important. So, going on, Srila Prabhupada Nectar, we are in, it says volume 4, because these are made up of those little red books that were originally published. And this is number 20 in volume 4. Once Srila Prabhupada came to London when he was quite sick. He was scheduled to go to New Mayapur, France. In anticipation of Srila Prabhupada's visit, devotees had gathered in New Mayapur from Germany, Switzerland, and other European countries. The deities of Krishna Balaram were to be installed, initiations were to take place, and for these events, devotees had been laboring hard to prepare for Srila Prabhupada's arrival. Bhagavan Das as GBC man, had personally worked to get Prabhupada's rooms ready, buying chandeliers in Paris, having a bed and tables made in Italy, having a new marble mantle made for the fireplace, putting up wallpaper, and so on. When the word came that Srila Prabhupada wasn't coming, or then the word came that Srila Prabhupada wasn't coming, so Bhagavan got on the next plane to London. When he met Srila Prabhupada, Bhagavan told him that many devotees had come to see him in New Mayapur. Srila Prabhupada said, "I will dictate a message for them." Prabhupada meant that he would do this instead of going personally. After some more discussion, Bhagavan said, "It is hot there." Bhagavan thought that this would be appealing because Srila Prabhupada's bad cold. "Actually, they are having a drought there," said Bhagavan. "It hasn't rained in weeks." Prabhupada appeared unmoved. Finally Bhagavan said, "We have an elevator in Paris. You won't have to walk up the stairs." Then Srila Prabhupada said to his secretary, "Oh, an elevator. We should get this in Berry Place too." Finally he said, "Your invitation is a reasonable proposal," and he agreed to go. Prabhupada then turned to his secretary and said, "Bhagavan is the supreme controller." Prabhupada then turned to his secretary and said, "Bhagavan is the supreme controller." 21. Srila Prabhupada said on polygamy in ISKCON, "This incident with one of our temple presidents is not good. He can't even maintain one wife. Just see how lusty he is. Now he'll dare to take another. Anyway, he cannot live in the temple. If he wants 2 wives, he must live outside. He should maintain his family by working and giving 50% to the temple. He may not live off of temple funds. Temple president is generally meant for sannyasi, but a grihastha may be if he is restrained."
Could you go over that point again about the temple president? Who's supposed to be the temple president?
I actually said it's generally meant for a sannyasi. Although sometimes Srila Prabhupada we made these devotees sannyas, and he took them out of the position of temple president back when Satsvarup Maharaj and Hridayananda Maharaj and these devotees took sannyas, and he specifically took them out of management, just told them to travel and preach. Huh? Yeah, that's the idea. But Srila Prabhupada was saying here, according to this, but a grihastha may be if he is restrained. It is not good if he. We're referring to some particular devotee here. So it is not good if he remains as president. So this particular devotee is married and he wants to have a second wife, and which is not. I'm not sure where this took place, but I don't. It doesn't mention any names. But I mean, it's not actually legal in this country anyway. So I'm not sure where they were doing it. But anyway, Srila Prabhupada didn't approve of that. That was not something that he was allowing in ISKCON, and it was not actually, at least in America, it's not allowed for the same reason. Yeah. So he can't maintain one wife, then how are you going to have 2 or 3 or so many? Anyway, that was from a letter of November 8th, 1976. Going on. Regarding the question of second marriage, it cannot be done. Neither the law will allow it, neither we can encourage it. If they want to marry more than one wife, they must live outside our temples in their own arrangements. We have no objection if he does it, but it must be done outside the temple. It cannot be done inside the temple jurisdiction. Outside, he can work, earn money, and if he wants, he can maintain 16,000 wives. But he must go outside the society. Within the society, only one marriage can be allowed. So actually, outside the society, practically, in ISKCON, it's not allowed. You do what you want to do, but it's not within ISKCON. I thought these boys and girls would be married and be happy, but I see that they are not satisfied. In the Western countries, they are trained up in a different way, jumping from one to another. Another wife, another husband. This is the disease all over the world, simply by arrangement, simply by agreement, then canceling, then another agreement. Everyone wants more than one wife. That is human nature. This means their mind is not being diverted by Krishna. Because they are not Madan Mohan, they are Madan Dahana. They are in Cupid's fire. Madan Mohan means the attractor of Cupid. So they are not Madan Mohan, but are under the control of Cupid. They must go outside the society to do that. And the sort of marriage where they are not satisfied, and the sort of marriage where they are not satisfied cannot be allowed, nor can women with child, nor can woman with child, strictly she cannot marry again. Regarding your taking a second wife, you cannot do this. At least you cannot stay in our temple. These are different letters. You cannot stay in our temple in Vrindavan. If you want to take a second wife, then you have to leave our Vrindavan temple. Whether you can maintain them and take some job and earn, our temple cannot support you and your 2 wives. You will then want 3, 4, and more. Anyway, as an American, it is illegal for you to do this. We are trying to minimize sex, and you are trying to increase it. Please give up this idea. That's right, because the whole idea of marriage in Krishna consciousness is to actually give up sex. It's allowed for having children, and if it's only for having children, and maintaining children, of course, is a challenge. Yeah? So the idea is to become purified of that desire, do something Krishna conscious, like helping a child, as that soul in a child's body become Krishna conscious, and then give up the actual desire for the material for sex. So it is actually the point of marriage and Krishna consciousness. And actually, and of the 4 ashrams, 3 of them, sex is not allowed anyway. Brahmachari, no. Vanaprastha, no. That's at the end of the family life, so there's no sex. And sannyasa, of course, no. And in the grihastha life, it's pretty restricted if you want to actually become Krishna conscious. So Srila Prabhupada definitely didn't want to encourage or allow somebody to have 2 wives or 3 wives or 4 wives. He says, if you're in the temple and the temple is having to maintain you, then you want a second wife, a third wife, a fourth wife, a fifth wife, and somebody else has to maintain them. So Srila Prabhupada, there's no way he was going to allow that, besides the fact that it was not legal. Which, of course, and Srila Prabhupada was very particular about that we very carefully follow the local laws in every way. when Srila Prabhupada visited the Gainesville Temple back in 1971, 71, one devotee took him. One of the things Srila Prabhupada did during that visit, which was only for 24 hours, was an interview at the University of Florida. They have a TV station. So that was arranged, and Srila Prabhupada went there. So the devotee drove him over there, and he promptly parked at the closest parking spot to the door, which of course is a handicapped parking spot. But no one had a handicap tag on the car. So Srila Prabhupada looked up at the sign, "Do not park here, handicap," and he says, "What is that? Go park somewhere else." They're thinking, okay, we have a Srila Prabhupada here. We can do anything. We don't have to follow the rules so much. Srila Prabhupada saw the sign and says, "Not here. Park somewhere else." So he wanted to make that point that we follow all the local laws, and if we don't, then we may or may not get caught. But if we do, either way, people will not. If we're not following the law, the people will not respect us. And if they don't respect us, they're not going to respect our preaching. See? So, okay, anyway, going on. Number 22. Srila Prabhupada tells a story. Srila Prabhupada told a story about an insensitive worshiper of the goddess Kali. The devotee, in parentheses, devotee, means devotee of Kali, went to the temple and prayed to the goddess in a materialistic way, typical of a demigod worshiper. He asked for a material benediction. After his prayers in a perfunctory puja, he soon got the desired material result. But his puja included an obligation that when he got the result, he would offer the goddess a sacrifice of a goat. After some days passed, the goddess in the temple spoke to the worshiper and asked him, "Where is the goat you promised?" "It is very expensive," he said, "and I don't think I can afford to offer you a goat." "All right," said the goddess, "but you have to offer something, so go and offer me at least a pig." The worshiper went away but neglected the goddess's request. Then on another occasion in the temple, the goddess spoke to him again and said, "Where is the offering of the pig?" This time the devotee again excused himself and said, "I am so sorry, but I could not find any pigs anywhere. It is not so easy." The goddess replied, "This is not very good. You have received your benediction, and now you must give something in return. But just to make it easy for you, I request you to at least offer something that is available to you. So why don't you at least offer me a fly?" A fly. "But goddess," said the worthless worshiper, "there are so many flies buzzing around you. Can't you just grab one yourself?" Such is the attitude of the materialistic demigod worshippers, whose hearts are completely devoid of loving service. So that was the point. So we should worship Krishna and just be satisfied satisfied that Krishna is being worshipped and is happy. We should be trying to make Krishna happy, as that's the goal. But here's someone they worship a demigod, which means they're worshiping to get some material thing, and as this particular person is not showing any sign of even appreciation for what he's got. 23. Prabhupada tells short stories. On a morning walk in Boston, Srila Prabhupada told of a funny expression used in India. He said that if you see a fat man in India, you sometimes say to him, quote, "Where do you get your merchandise?" End quote. The idea is that, being so fat, the man must be obtaining good merchandise. As he said this, Srila Prabhupada was accompanied only by a few disciples walking down Alston Street near the old Boston storefront temple. Suddenly, a beer-bellied cab driver got out of his car just in front of the devotees. Srila Prabhupada looked directly at the fat man and said, "Where do you get your merchandise?" The meaning of Srila Prabhupada's words went completely over the cabbie's head, and Prabhupada continued walking and talking. While speaking at Harvard University one time, Srila Prabhupada told his students the story of how the Himalayan mountains once gave birth. When the word spread that the world-famous huge Himalayan mountain range was going to produce offspring, hundreds of people began to gather in the foothills of the mountains. In anticipation, crowds waited, and finally they saw hundreds of rats running out from the Himalayan mountains. Srila Prabhupada linked this strange story to the student population of Harvard. He said that it was expected that from the great university in America, the greatest university in America, something wonderful would come out. But unless they become Krishna conscious, they would be like the offspring of the Himalayan mountains. Another one. If one has got their own philosophy, then let them preach their own philosophy, but do not do it in the name of the Gita. This is our protest to all the interpreters of the Bhagavad Gita. If they do not believe in God, Krishna, and they don't want to surrender to Him, then let them preach atheism. Everyone has got the right to do this, but why through the Gita? This is like a man who wants to smoke ganja, but he does not want to be caught. So he takes a friend's hand and smokes it in his hand, and then when the authorities come, he says, "Oh, I'm not smoked ganja. See, my hands are clean." The idea is that if one wants to preach the Gita, then he must preach it as it is. Otherwise, don't go through the Gita. It's a letter from June 6, 1976. According to a Bengali story told by Prabhupada, a deaf man used to call his wife. She would reply, "I am coming," but the deaf man could not hear her. He used to think, this woman is deaf. In actuality, he was deaf, but he accused her of being deaf. Prabhupada said that this was similar to the condition of the mass of people who are actually brainwashed by material illusion, and yet who accuse the Krishna conscious persons of being brainwashed. In this connection, Prabhupada stressed that only a Krishna conscious person knew the science of the soul and of changing bodies, whereas other religionists had little or no idea, yet they criticized from their position of blind. Number 24. Personal. His giving the morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. No matter what else he was doing, even when he was ill, wherever he traveled, he lived with the devotees and joined them to give the morning class. Here was the opportunity to watch his gestures and expressions as he spoke, absorbed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. A dull student might think that Prabhupada was saying the same things, using the same repertoire of verses. But Prabhupada was always quoting the verses to prove different points in different contexts. He was always discovering new lights. He said that the repetition was necessary to learn. For most devotees in the later years, this was the one sure time to be with him in his personal form, to sit and hear. It was formal, and one might wish for other situations in which to ask personal questions and to have a reply just for oneself. Yet the lectures were a great mercy, and to the receptive student, they were very personal. Devotees have testified how, in a large audience, the Prabhupada said, distribute books. They took it to heart and formed their lives on that order. Jai Shishi Gordita, Shishi Radha Pujabihari, Jagannath, Balaram, Lady Subhadra, with Shrimati Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Many have testified that they found Prabhupada looked at them and spoke especially to them in his lecture, even though they knew he was speaking to everyone else as well. This was the time for all to be with him. Each morning, without fail, he would begin looking at the verse and speaking as if he was entering a sacred river. He immersed himself at once in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He hardly ever chose another literature to speak from in the morning. What an example! The Srimad Bhagavatam contains all else and is perfect for all days. What an example that the Srimad Bhagavatam contains all else and is perfect for all our days. So, which means we can study Srimad Bhagavatam every day for the rest of our lives, and it'll never get old. And it's significant, useful, and it's like a lifeline to hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly every day. And it's actually described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nashta Presha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavad Uttama Shloki Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. It says by regular attendance in classes on the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, one can become free from all material desires and become Krishna conscious, and that's essentially it. So the Srimad Bhagavatam itself says that, and Nitya Seva, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya is the eternal service. Eternal service. It also means regular, like daily service or daily activity. It's like it's a Nitya Seva that we chant our rounds every day. It's a Nitya Seva that we worship the deities every day. It's a regular daily. So it's a Nitya Seva that we worship, that we read and hear and, chant, and study Srimad Bhagavatam every day. He sat in one place in the traditional position of the Guru, legs crossed, sitting on the Vyasasana with spectacles, book in hand, microphone, gesturing and looking up. He was 100% Vyasadev's representative, giving us the transcendental wisdom. Seeing Srila Prabhupada's personal example, even today, by means of movies or tape recorders, all the devotees of the Krishna consciousness movement may adopt the same procedures and do as he taught. Like him, we can precede the class by singing Jaya Radha Madhava with cartels. Then we can recite Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Then the Sanskrit synonyms, translation, purport. We have no need to invent something new. After he showed us hundreds and hundreds of times, how can we fail to grasp the instruction? That we should continue the morning tradition of sitting together and hearing and speaking. A devotee once told Srila Prabhupada that many disciples slept during classes. And Srila Prabhupada replied that he knew. He said that his classes were for advanced students. Srila Prabhupada gave untiringly as the loving instructor, but it was up to his disciples to benefit. I confess that I was one of those who sometimes slept in the Srimad Bhagavatam class. Once I even asked Srila Prabhupada what to do about my sad plight. At first he replied by making a joke. He said that there is an atheistic joke in India. Srimad Bhagavatam is a sure cure for insomnia. It was an atheistic joke. So if you don't believe in God, and you say, you see someone falling asleep, oh, it's a sure cure for insomnia. When Srila Prabhupada said this, I laughed, but I didn't want it to be true of me. Sometimes, when Prabhupada found a devotee sleeping in his class, he would tell him to stand up and go to the rear. Srimad Bhagavatam class was for his advanced students, but he kept giving us chances to become more advanced. Srila Prabhupada spoke with rhetorical power and emotion, straight from his deep convictions. He had great oratorial skill, emphasizing his points with aesthetic effects. But none of it was done for show or with lack of realization, not like the rasa dance talks of bogus Bhagavatam reciters. Srila Prabhupada wrote Bhagavatam purports, and he lived the life of the Bhagavatam. He was also the Bhagavatam's ideal preacher. When he spoke, the emotions were always right. Srila Prabhupada kindly gave us all those classes, and now, by tape recording, we hear them still, even as we wake in the morning, while taking prasadam, driving the car, flying in the plane, in sick bed or deathbed. These matchless gifts continue in our ears to cleanse our hearts and remind us that we are his Shisha. Shisha means disciple. We are followers of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam's class is so important. So if we become tired, if we're falling asleep, then they have to stand up. By my first years in the movement, I was always tired, too much work, too much service. So I was, when it came time for Srimad Bhagavatam class, I just knew if I sat down, I would fall asleep. So I was standing up the entire class every day. But now I got a taste for Srimad Bhagavatam. So it works. So one way or another, we have to become uh, attentively listen to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Uh, and that's what that verse in Srimad Bhagavatam says. By regular attendance, in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam, uh, by, by being attentive, then we become free from all material contaminations. Uh, it all starts with hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam. So number 25, realizations. For a while, I was the headmaster of Vrindavan Gurukula. This part being written by Rupa Vilas Das Adhikari. For a while, I was the headmaster of Vrindavan Gurukula when it was a fledgling Gurukula. At that time, Srila Prabhupada's Vrindavan friend, Bhagatji, was often going in to see Prabhupada. Bhagatji was also like the sugar daddy of the Gurukula. He was helping me out in different ways. When he used to go in and see Prabhupada, I was thinking, well, maybe I can go in with him when he goes. So Bhagatji used to let me tag along, go in, and just sit in Prabhupada's room and hear the different talk. A lot of times it was in Hindi or in Bengali, so I couldn't really understand much, but it was nice to just sit and be with Srila Prabhupada. Then I got a little puffed up, thinking, this is great. Now I have this position. I can go in and see Srila Prabhupada. With that contamination in my mind one night, I went in to see Srila Prabhupada while he was sitting out in his garden speaking to a couple of Indian guests. As I entered, the Indian guests were sitting there, and Prabhupada said to me, go and get some asanas. I ran out and tried to get asanas, but I realized I don't know where to go to get asanas. Then I was in a quandary. I don't know what to do. I thought, well, I guess I'll have to go back and ask Srila Prabhupada. I went back in and said, Srila Prabhupada. He said, yes. Where should I get asanas? He said, go and see Harisari. He will show you. Then I ran and found Harisari. Harisari, Prabhupada wants some asanas for his guest. Can you give me some? He said, I don't think we have any. Then I said, oh no. He said, let me look. Then he rummaged around his closet and he came up with one crumpled looking asana. I thought, I've only got one asana. What am I going to do? Then I went back and the guests were getting up to leave. Prabhupada said, get them some prasadam. So I ran back and found Harisari again. I said, the guests are leaving. Prabhupada wants me to give them some prasadam. He said, all right, here is some prasadam. Then I came out and gave them each some prasadam. At this point, I was thinking, well, at least I did one thing right. But I still have this one asana. So I went back to the garden. As I came in, Prabhupada was talking to Bhagavatji, and no one else was around. It looked like Bhagavatji was already sitting on something, and Prabhupada was sitting on his own raised seat. I stood there with the one asana, and I didn't know what to do with it. I couldn't understand whether Prabhupada wanted me to use the asana, or Bhagavatji, or whether it was... I didn't know what to do with it. I couldn't understand whether Prabhupada wanted me to use the asana, or me to use asana, or Bhagavatji, or whether it was for the guest or what. I didn't know. I was completely bewildered. As I came in, Prabhupada said, I have several times asked you to get asanas. What is the difficulty? I said, Srila Prabhupada, I can only get this one asana. Prabhupada replied by saying, Srila Prabhupada, what? What should I do with the asana? Prabhupada said, take your one asana and sit down on it. Then he began to laugh. I felt like a complete fool as he began to laugh. Bhagawatji also started laughing, and I also started to laugh. I could understand at that point how I was so puffed up, thinking I was a big personality. I could go in and see Srila Prabhupada, but he had just revealed to me what a complete fool I was, an incompetent bungler. They were both laughing, and I was also laughing. I couldn't even quite understand why I was laughing, but somehow or other, by his chastisement in making me look like a fool, I felt completely relieved because I could understand my actual position. I was just an insignificant, foolish servant who couldn't do practically anything right. Somehow it was a great relief just to know that. So I sat down and they went on talking. This is written by Rupa Vilas Das Adhikari. One more second, one more at least. Shubhananda tells of a personal interview he had in Vrindavan with Prabhupada, where Prabhupada gave him permission and blessings to write a book on Vedic psychology. Pushta Krishna Swami introduced them. This is Shubhananda Das, and he is a writer for the BBT. He wants to speak with you about writing a book on Vedic psychology. Prabhupada asked Shubhananda if he had studied psychology. No, Prabhupada, Shubhananda replied. Prabhupada then turned to his secretary and said, how can he write a book on psychology? Shubhananda felt somewhat heartbroken and tried to explain himself. He said to Prabhupada that the kind of book he wanted to write would not be a comparative study comparing Vedic psychology to modern mundane psychology, but he wanted to write about psychology based on the Bhagavad Gita in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Have you read all my books? Srila Prabhupada asked. Have you read the Bhagavad Gita? Have you read the Srimad Bhagavatam? Yes, Shubhananda replied. What is the psychology in those books? Shubhananda replied that psychology is the study of the self. It comes from the word psyche, which means soul. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it is described that we are not the body, but the self is the spirit soul. If one identifies with the body, said Shubhananda, he's crazy. Prabhupada widened his eyes, nodded his head, and turned to Pushta Krishna. Very good, very good. Shubhananda continued giving a little synopsis of what his proposed book would be, describing the dynamics between the senses, the mind, intelligence, and false ego. All these things would be taken from Srila Prabhupada's books and arranged in a literary way to show that Vedic literature contains a very profound science of psychology. Prabhupada seemed to approve, but he asked further, what is the goal? The goal of the book, Prabhupada? Shubhananda asked. No, the goal of life. To surrender to Krishna, Shubhananda replied. Why? Prabhupada demanded. Because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shubhananda replied, and we are all his parts and parcels. It is our constitutional position to surrender to him. Prabhupada nodded, yes. So that should be the goal of the book, asked Shubhananda. So that should be the goal of the book, asked Shubhananda. that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Again, Prabhupada said yes. He was then silent, and it appeared that nothing more was to be said. But Shrivananda wanted to be sure that Prabhupada actually wanted him to write the book, and not that he was only humoring an attached disciple. Prabhupada asked Shrivananda, "Do you really want me to do this book? Is it something that you think would be important, and do you really want me to do it?" Prabhupada nodded yes. Then Shrivananda asked Prabhupada for his blessings so that he could write the book. In some of your purports, said Shrivananda, you explain that one cannot write transcendental literature unless he is empowered by his spiritual master. Prabhupada waved his arm and said, "You're empowered." Shrivananda had a long formal presentation in mind, but Srila Prabhupada had suddenly answered all his questions. To Shrivananda, Prabhupada's gesture was on the one hand casual, yet it was very dramatic. He had moved his arm just as though it was a magic wand, and in one transcendental motion he said, "You're empowered." Shrivananda wasn't sure whether to take it that Prabhupada meant that he was already empowered, or that he was that he was now hereby empowering Shrivananda on the spot. Either interpretation meant the same thing, and Shrivananda felt confident and humble. He knew that he had no personal qualification to write unless Prabhupada gave him the ability. Overcome with joy, Shrivananda stood before Prabhupada with folded hands and prayed out loud to him. "Prabhupada, I'm trying to advance in Krishna consciousness, and I'm feeling that I need your mercy. Please benedict me with Krishna consciousness." Prabhupada replied, "Teshang satata yuktanam bhajatang priti purvagam." If the devotee is sincere, Krishna will bless. Srila Prabhupada then reached for an orange on his desk and handed it to Shrivananda, who left, his mind, swimming in an ocean of transcendental happiness. I think it's far as I'll go. Any questions, comments?
Growing up in the Islamic faith, I would see my father's cousins and stuff took up in my life. And it was just true. It was true. And there were all four. And it was exactly like the truth. It could have been two themselves. One, more than one. There was always oral issues, very material and lusty. I remember the divorced woman who married another and she was it was crazy. He was the only one in the family who would continually do this. And I would just see we had 16 children, something like that. And it was just crazy. It just made me think of, people who take that on. And it wasn't legal. We do this here. We have one married legally, and others that were married. Then there was some other just not by law. And that's how they do it. So it just made me think how unspiritual it really was, because I could see, now that I think about it, how very materialistic it was, and how much suffering my cousins who were around my age, when he first got married, first life, and how their lives seemed like afterwards. There was a lot of suffering for the children. Never mind for the women. And how I could see how crazy that was to think that, their Krishna, their Buddha, able to do that and maintain some kind of way. It's completely worth it. So it just made me think about how that's still a practice in some ways, but not something that's even viable or anything.
Right. Okay. Yes, it's not practical. And of course, then Lord Ramachandra, he showed that ideal as a king. A king, he could have so many wives. That was his. But he showed his example of accepting only one, like that. So, and of course, Krishna accepted 16,108, but it's Krishna, so he expanded himself into 16,108 separate forms. He gave each queen a separate palace to live in, and had 10 children of each queen, and never left anyone. So, but that's Krishna because he's God. He can do these things. But in ordinary material life, the rule. No, one man, one wife, and try to stay together. Try to stay together. But that as Kali Yuga goes on, that'll also. I mean, even now, it's society is really crazy as far as marriages and divorces, and as Kali Yuga goes on, one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga is that two people will consider themselves married just because they happen to be living together. No formal arrangement, no formal, um, no legal bind like that, and just living in the same house, then you're married. And if you decide to, okay, well, that was we had 2 weeks together, and now I'm going to live with somebody else, and then and we're married. Then they consider that being married to somebody else. Anyway, this is one of the symptoms that will be very, very prominent at the end of Kali Yuga, and it's already happening now anyway to such a degree. Okay, so we'll end here for today. Tomorrow, I'm planning Srimad Bhagavatam. Tomorrow's Saturday, and next day's Purnima, unless we're requested to do a special class regarding Lord Chaitanya. If we are, then we do that, and we continue Srimad Bhagavatam on Monday. We'll see. Okay. Shukla Prabhupada ki jai.